I'm in the big leagues, told them don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding a road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort this piss poor.
Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, a.k.a. Aaron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. It's Friday, y'all. A happy Friday. I hope you guys had a wonderful, fantastic week. It's the weekend. We all love the weekend, or at least most of us love the weekend. But let's get into some hoops talk. Let's talk about what has gone on this past week, some of the games that I highlighted, and the games of the week, or at least in my opinion, the games of the week that have taken place. So let's talk first. We got to talk about that game that I hyped up on Tuesday's show, and that was this past Tuesday. The Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors, the two best teams in the NBA in terms of record, finally faced off against one another. So, how did it go? So, the Phoenix Suns, as I so expertly predicted, did defeat the Golden State Warriors. The final score was 104-96. So, this was Phoenix's 17th straight win. So, like I said, as I so expertly predicted, I did say that Phoenix was going to win that game, and it kind of played out in mostly the way I thought it would. There were a few surprises that I'll get into just a little bit later, but Phoenix did win that game. So this was mostly a close game throughout the first three quarters. It was kind of back and forth. You know, the Warriors, I believe, were up 2 points when the first half ended. But the Phoenix Suns did edge out in the end. Solid effort across the board from pretty much most of the players for the Phoenix Suns. CP3 had 15 points, 11 assists, point guard, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, and 5 steals. You had DeAndre Ayton also putting in 24 points and 11 rebounds. Jay Crowder, 14 points with 4 three-pointers made. So a solid effort pretty much across the board from the Phoenix Suns players. Now, Miles Bridges, who I love. Miles Bridges is definitely one of my, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is one of my favorite players to watch. Didn't fill the stat sheet, if you look at the box score, but his impact on the game was definitely felt. He had 4 steals, and his plus-minus was 21 when he was on the floor. So his impact, his presence was definitely felt. There was a lot of moments where he was guarding Steph most of the game and was a contributing factor into Stephen Curry having the night that he did. Now, Devin Booker, unfortunately, did sustain a hamstring injury. I don't think they said exactly how long he's going to be out. He will miss a few games, I think the report that I saw. So, unfortunately, Devin Booker, he had about 10 points before he went down for the injury, but he will be missing some time with a hamstring injury. So, that is not necessarily going to derail their season, but, going to add a little bump in the road. But it was a tough night for Stephen Curry. Steph Curry had one of the worst shooting performances that we have seen from him. Obviously, we know him to be the greatest shooter that the world has ever seen, but it was a tough night for him, and everybody has those tough nights. 4 for 21 for the field for Steph Curry, 3 for 14 from three-point range, 12 points only on the night. So he definitely struggled. He missed a lot of open shots too, but it's crazy. I saw a statistic the other day that Steph Curry, his shooting percentage when someone is in a few feet of him is much better than when he's wide open. So you almost have a better shot by leaving him wide open, which is crazy to think, right? You would think that if you contest it, he's a worse shooter, but statistically, he is not. But he did have a down night, an off night by his standards for sure, in only scoring 12 points. But Jordan Poole, candidate who I think is in the conversation for MIP, Most Improved Player of the Year, I should say. Jordan Poole had 28 points, went 6 of 12 from the three-point line, so he did his best Steph Curry impression with Steph Curry struggling in that game on Tuesday. So, pretty solid game. Phoenix ended up winning it. Hats off to Phoenix. It was a really, really solid, hard-fought victory pretty much throughout the end until the Warriors went cold in the fourth round. the question I had coming out of this game, does this make the Suns the team to beat in the Western Conference? Now that they have beaten the Warriors and they do have the number 1 seed as of right now, does this make them the team to beat in the Western Conference? Now, in my opinion, yes, it does. During this stretch of games, I was talking to a friend of mine on Twitter a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how they had Brooklyn, the Knicks, and the Golden State Warriors coming up on, among this stretch of games. A lot of their victories they've had against sub 500 teams on this win streak, which, the win streak, 17 games in a row is no easy task. Otherwise, it would be done on a consistent basis, but it hasn't been. But they beat the Knicks, they beat the Nets, and now beating Golden State on this stretch. So I think so far, and still, the early part of the season, we're about, a little more than 20 games in now, right at 20 games in. I think this makes them the team to beat in the Western Conference. Think about it. They won the West last year. Obviously, there were some injuries, along the way to other key teams, but injuries are part of the game. They are the defending Western Conference champions, so I definitely feel as if we should put that respect. Like I said, they went to the finals last year. So right now, yeah, I would agree that they are the team to beat in the Western Conference right now. So hats off to you, Phoenix. You are making me seem like I know a ton of basketball, which I really do. But let's transition. Let's talk about the first game in that doubleheader this past Tuesday night on TNT. You had the Nets and the Knicks. So the Brooklyn Nets defeated the New York Knicks 112-110, and this now puts the Brooklyn Nets at 15-6 for the season, a game and a half ahead of second place in the Western Conference. They are the number 1 seed, in the Eastern Conference. They are the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So, like the Phoenix and Golden State game, this game was pretty much back and forth throughout most of the game. The Nets kind of got ahead, Knicks came back, Knicks got a little bit of a lead, Nets came back. So it was kind of a teeter-totter for most of that game. Solid action on both sides in terms of, the offense and your defense. Technically, it was a home game for Brooklyn, but if you listen to that crowd, just watching on TV, you would think that it was a New York Knicks game, like the way those Knicks fans, they showed up and they showed out in that game. So it pretty much, Brooklyn Nets fans were there too, but those Knicks fans are loud and proud for their Knicks. Now, Kevin Durant struggled for a good portion of the game, pretty much throughout most of the first half. He did finish, though, 27 points off 9 of 23 shooting, so not his normal efficient night that we're used to seeing from him. He did put in 9 assists and 5 rebounds, though, but this game was definitely all about James Harden. James Harden was the man in this game, the James Harden that we know and love, putting in 34 points, 10 rebounds and 8 assists, so a near triple-double for James Harden, which we are definitely used to seeing him put up triple-double numbers. I don't know how many he put up when he was, with the Houston Rockets, but it was a lot of them. But is he back? He is coming off of injury, the hamstring injury that he sustained, last season that carried into the playoffs, and, he wasn't able to rehab the way that he would have hoped for is what information that he relayed publicly. So, it seems as if he's kind of getting, back to the James Harden that, like I said, we know and love. So I would say that he's slowly but surely getting back there. But he definitely had a really, really solid game, was lighting up the Knicks pretty much all night long. On the New York Knicks side, Julius Randle, he was solid. He had a solid game, a near triple-double like James Harden. 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. He also had plenty of help from the New York Knicks faithful, on his colleagues, I should say. Plenty of help from Alec Burks, 25 points and 5 assists, which doesn't spell good for Kemba Walker because Alec Burks is his replacement in the rotation. We talked about on Tuesday's show how Kemba Walker has come out of the rotation for the New York Knicks, and Alec Burks has now, for the second game in a row, put in more than 20 points. So, not looking good for Kemba Walker in New York, but we shall see. But Derrick Rose put in 16 points and 9 assists off the bench. Emmanuel Quickley, who I really, really enjoy watching that kid's game. He is super confident. 12 points and 7 rebounds off the bench. So pretty solid production from the New York Knicks bench and the New York Knicks others, in addition to Julius Randle. But they did, like I said, unfortunately lose the game by 2 points. So the question that I have from this game, from the first game of the doubleheader was, can the Nets, with this iteration of the team, can the Nets count on Kevin Durant and Harden to lead this team out of the Eastern Conference this year? And I had to think about this one for a hot minute because we know what we get from Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is one of the greatest players we've ever seen, arguably the greatest scorer that the game has ever seen. So we know what we're going to get from him. So we can count on Kevin Durant. I feel as if that's not a stretch to say that we can count on Kevin Durant to kind of, to get you some wins, to lead you, to win you a series. James Harden, on the other hand, I have to say we can't really count on him. I mean, there's too much uncertainty with James Harden. There's too many moments where he has folded when it matters most. Now, last year, he was injured. He was clearly injured. He could not go, the way that we're used to seeing him go. But how many times in Houston were we expecting Houston to kind of get over the hump, and they didn't because of a poor James Harden shooting night? So, I mean, we can't really count on James Harden. Like I said, there's been too many moments where he's shrunk, where he hasn't shown up. I mean, they're still my pick as of right now. I'm sticking to my pick in my early season prediction. I've got Brooklyn coming out of the Eastern Conference. Right now, I mean, I'm not feeling too confident about that with their current iteration of what they have. Now, they do have some injuries to key players. Joe Harris is out. Blake Griffin is not injured, but he is out of the rotation for right now. Has not had a good start to the season at all. Who else? Oh, Kyrie Irving. The whole Kyrie Irving situation is still up in the air. Is he going to take the vaccine? And what is New York City going to change their mandate with this new variant now? It doesn't seem likely. So, I mean, they're not indestructible. They are one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, but they are not indestructible. So I could see them definitely losing if it, in the playoffs, if it came down to it. Like I said, I'm sticking to my pick as of right now. We can count on Kevin Durant. We cannot count on James Harden based off what we've seen, based off of historical data. So, sorry about it, James, but that's just the way it is. But the last game of the week that I wanted to highlight, we had the Milwaukee Bucks and the Charlotte Hornets play each other. This was 2 days ago. It was a Wednesday. When you're hearing this, will be a Friday, so 2 days ago. Excellent, amazing game, pretty much from start to finish. Milwaukee won this game 127 to 125 for their 8th straight victory. They're quietly on an 8-game win streak. A lot of people aren't talking about that just yet. But like I said, this game was very good. The Bucks were down 16 points at the end of the first quarter. They were down 41 to 25, which was pretty incredible. But I mean, a 16-point deficit in the NBA is not that big a deal now because, I mean, of how many 3-point shots get, put up in each quarter. But even though Charlotte lost this game, my overall thought about it was they can kind of feel good about the way they played against the defending champions. Like, they were in there, they were in the thick of it for pretty much the entire game, going back and forth. Once Milwaukee made that comeback, they showed, great, fortitude. They showed tremendous resolve in dealing with that comeback and not folding when Milwaukee was making their run. So they can definitely feel good about the way they played against the Milwaukee Bucks. They really, though, no answer defensively for Giannis at all, which, I mean, a lot of teams don't have a much of an answer for him. You can't really do a whole lot with him. But he had 40 points, 12 rebounds and 9 assists, almost a triple-double, 1 assist shy of a triple-double. Also went 9 of 13 from the free throw line. And Giannis did hit the game-winning layup, had the game-winning drive against the Charlotte Hornets in that game. Chris Middleton put in 21, had a solid productive night. Grayson Allen had 16 points, and I think he hit 3 or 4 3-point shots, if I can remember correctly. So a pretty solid game across the board for most of your Milwaukee Bucks. I think Drew Holiday put in an 11 points, 7 assists, if I'm not mistaken, too. So pretty good game. But this was on the Hornets side, this was a career game for LaMelo Ball. He had 36 points, which is a career high, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds. So he played incredibly well. He also had the game-tying 3-point shot that tied the game at 125, was it? Yeah, 125 to 125 before Giannis ended up hitting that shot to put them up 2 points, 127 to 125. But Miles Bridges also had a pretty solid night for the Charlotte Hornets, 22 points, 9 rebounds. A coworker of mine who thinks that Miles Bridges so far is the most improved player of the year. Personally, I mean, everybody knows I'm objective. I think it's DeJounte Murray, but that's definitely a story for another day. We'll talk about that on another episode. But Miles Bridges did have a pretty solid game, putting in 22 points, 9 rebounds. So those were the 3 games that I thought were the most entertaining. And the games that I wanted to kind of highlight and talk about this week, you had the Phoenix Suns beating the Golden State Warriors. You had the Brooklyn Nets defeating the New York Knicks in the Battle of New York. And the Milwaukee Bucks defeating the Charlotte Hornets. So some pretty solid games. But now let's get into a few pieces of news around the association. Some news that we got to talk about that has come out over the past couple days. So LeBron James. News has come out about LeBron James. LeBron James has tested negative and has cleared health and safety protocols. So he should be set to return tonight against, I believe they're playing the Clippers, if I'm not mistaken. But additional testing confirmed that James is not a positive case. I have the article pulled up here. It says the league said Thursday that James is not positive for COVID-19, despite a series of tests that produced conflicting results earlier this week. Additional testing cleared James to play when the Lakers host the Los Angeles Clippers on Friday night. This is a direct quote from that report. Following 2 negative PCR tests conducted more than 24 hours apart, Los Angeles Lakers forward LeBron James has cleared health and safety protocols. James was originally placed in protocols Tuesday after a series of tests delivered conflicting results, including a positive test that was collected on November 29th. And additional testing confirmed he is not a positive case. So glad to hear that. Glad to hear LeBron James is not COVID positive. Definitely don't, wish that on anybody. Want everybody to be as healthy as possible. There's been quite a few players that have come off of that. Joel Embiid. There was another player who was dealing with COVID. I think Chris Middleton just came back not too long ago dealing with COVID as well. So happy for a healthy LeBron, even though I am a certified LeBron hater. Never wish anybody to get sick at all. I want whoever I'm rooting for, I want them to beat LeBron. But glad he is doing okay. But next piece of news that has come out from the association is the NBA has imposed penalties on the Bulls and the Heat for early free agent discussions. So Chicago and Miami each have had to forfeit a second-round draft pick after violating league rules governing free agency discussions. So this was pretty interesting. I thought that came out. These determinations, it says in this report, followed investigations into free agency discussions engaged by the Bulls with respect to Lonzo Ball and by the Heat with respect to Kyle Lowry. So some sanctions coming down on the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Not something you definitely see every day come out from the NBA. I guess the timing, based off this report, the timing was violated of when these deals could be put in place and when these deals could be finalized. But I was thinking about this, and I was like, doesn't every team kind of violate like the timing and of all of the free agency signings and things like that? Because think about this, like when free agency gets announced, like teams are basically able to sign and talk to free agents. I'll never forget, what was this, 2 years ago? Yeah, 2019. Free agency hits in, June, July, whatever it is. And as soon as it hits 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, 3 o'clock Eastern time, they already had deals announced. Kyrie was going to Brooklyn. KD was going to Brooklyn. All this stuff. Lonzo was signing with, Chicago or whatever. I might be a year earlier on that. But anyway, all these deals come out right when free agency is set to open. So doesn't every single team kind of violate timing rules? I mean, that's just kind of how it seems. I mean, it is what it is. The league decided to come down. I guess it must have been really bad, or Chicago and Miami must have been really sloppy about their work covering it up. But I just feel like every team kind of does this because those deals are already kind of put in place as soon as free agency hits. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. That's just my opinion, my take. I just think it's a little weird that they came down with sanctions on them for, the deal with Kyle Lowry and Lonzo Ball. But, yeah, whatever. We'll see what happens. But let's get into this weekend. Let's talk about, as we wrap up this show, let's talk about some marquee matchups. The 3 games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday that I'm going to pick and pick correctly. Now, if y'all haven't been paying attention, your boy's been doing pretty well with the marquee matchups. So far, out of 12 games, I am 7-5. So I am above 500. If you remember correctly, I did not start off well. I started out, first couple weeks, I was 2-4. So, I mean, I've been picking some games correctly here recently based off what I'm seeing. I'm telling you, your boy knows his stuff. But, nah, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But these are the marquee matchups that I got coming out for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, Friday, the rematch between the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. I have the Golden State Warriors winning this game. Now, obviously, there's no Devin Booker, so that kind of puts a wrench in, the plans for Phoenix. But I do think that the win streak will end. I think that Golden State will want their win back, especially Steph Curry with the performance that he put in. So I've got the Golden State Warriors winning this game tonight, Friday, tonight. Second game I got for Saturday is a rematch of the past 2 years in the playoffs. I got the Miami Heat taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. I also think that Milwaukee, the home team, will end up winning this game. Their streak continues. I see their streak going up to 9 games at the very least. Like I said, these teams have met twice in the playoffs over the past 2 years. There is no Bam Adebayo also. I think he's out with some sort of injury. I can't exactly remember what injury he's dealing with. But I think Milwaukee will win this game. So Milwaukee beats Miami. Sunday's game, I've got the Charlotte Hornets on the road taking on the Atlanta Hawks. So this should be a pretty good one, a pretty fast-paced up-and-down game. Both of these teams like to get up and down and run the floor. Two young teams. Charlotte has come off some pretty tough losses against really good teams recently. So I will pick Charlotte to win this game in Atlanta. Atlanta has kind of been inconsistent over the past, pretty much the whole season. I think they're 9th in the Eastern Conference. So I will go with the Charlotte Hornets winning this game on the road against the Atlanta Hawks. But those are the 3 marquee matchups that I have highlighted. Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. I got the Warriors taking that. Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. I got the Bucks taking that. Charlotte Hornets and the Atlanta Hawks. I have the Hornets taking that against Atlanta on the road. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the show I have for you on this fine, fine Friday. Thank you, as I always say, thank you so much for listening. If you are on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. To everyone who has liked, shared, subscribed, commented, I greatly, greatly appreciate it. I know who you are. I see you, and I love you. But I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. I hope you are safe, and thank you again, like I said, for watching. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Yeah, I told him I'ma hit it out of stands. I deserve another 100 bands. I deserve another 100 fans. Told them this was always in the plans. I just did it cause they said I can. Blowing euros when I'm down in France. Labels asking how I build a brand. Told them put a check up in my hands. Still got time, no cap. Made a few checks, but they all in the raps. Had a few friends, but they suck in the past. I don't even trip when I'm thinking about that.